Get I Show Speed or something for a poetry night.
If you I Show Speed on the set, you can do the most racist tirade. If you backflip at the end of it,
Yeah.
10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I should not say things on a podcast.
Well, it's here now. It's saying.
Hello and welcome. I always do that so freaking high pitched. I can hear the voice intonations going up in the fucking YouTuber style. I'm keeping it in. Welcome to the Process Podcast. That is we're authentic. We're real here. And speaking of real, we're bringing a real poet to you today. As I've got a wonderful guest with me. You've got Francis with me today. Hello.
Hello, Darren.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think I'm. You know what it is? I started the beginning of the year in Cape Town in 27-degree weather, and
then you
know,
came back to
you know exactly.
This is what you wanted and needed in your life.
Yeah, I know exactly that. So like, I flew into Gatwick on the 5th of January, and it was just like 2 degrees and cold, and then I was also back at work the next couple of days. So it was. I feel like January for the most part was just like trying to just get back into just routine in this country and everything, but. Yeah, I'm feeling good now these days.
Oh, to out my lack of knowledge of history, but also dating stuff. Things of like, it was Burns night last night kind of thing. So Scots were doing some of their New Year's-esque bits last night as well. So we're still getting into the new year. So I think we're all still fine. I don't believe Chinese New Year has happened at time of recording.
I don't think so, no.
So we're still in the new year figuring out stuff. So I think you're fine with all of that. But yes, never going to start this year with the podcast and start the podcast how I start every single podcast. And I feel like I already know the answer to this, but nevertheless, I always like to go into like, how did we first meet? I am assuming it's Unislam.
So I first encountered you at Unislam.
Yeah.
This was, which one was this? I've been to so many. This was 2017.
Because I feel like it would have been a Leicester one?
Yeah, so So at this point I wasn't performing. So for this Unislam I wasn't performing. I was coaching Leicester. No, it was 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. I saw you like in the interval of one of our heats do your Grind My Gears poem.
Yes.
So that was my first encounter of you, but I don't think we actually spoke at that Unislam. But
yes,
what happened was, so I left that Unislam. I wanted to get into open mic proper, and because I was based in London, I hit you up on Twitter because, I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought you were the open mic guy.
and I'm still not somehow.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And asked about, just London nights that I could perform my poetry at. And then you recommended Boomerang Club for obvious reasons. And then I think I went to the June one. Again, didn't officially like kind of speak to you face to face then because the June one was also the same time that England was playing Colombia.
Oh, that was that the one that got cancelled?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
I was there like trying to perform my poetry, and then that didn't happen.
Yes. For people that are unaware, when Boomerang Club was running back in the day, we clashed with the World Cup, and it was probably on an England day when England were playing Colombia and it went to extra time.
Yeah.
The Boomerang would have started in the extra time period, but because it kept on going, all the England fans were just in this pub and took it over. Exactly. It's like, we had to like very politely talk to our features who were there of like, yeah, we can't do the night right now. It's too laddie here. We can't do anything. We're done.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was a good evening either way. No, I was sick, but yeah, obviously that didn't happen. So then I came to the July one. Then I think that's when we like actually met properly.
Nice.
But yeah, obviously after that it was mostly Boomerang Camp, but then obviously Unislam.
So we're going to start with our first section, and our first section is, as I know this. Our first section is called Timelines. Given the whole timelines thing, we're going to look at your past, present, and future, and all of that. So, in the past, whether you want to be just specifically poetry, but or just anything creatively, etc., like, what got you into being a creative? What got you into the poet? Like, have you always been a creative person, or was it something that's like, oh, I happened to be in the same room at Unislam thing came up, kind of thing? What was it for you?
So, the general creative, I wasn't always writing, I don't think. For most of my time in school, I was more into drawing, so like art. I think the first poem I remember writing, or at least the first poem of significance, was my school had an anti-bullying competition when I was in primary school, and in year 6 I wrote a poem about anti-bullying and then ended up winning.
Nice.
Award from day one, you know. But humble. But anyway, but yeah, other than that, I was mostly drawing. I remember, if I'm in my after school clubs, I would always be like, I would have pencil, paper, coloring pencils. I would be drawing like my favorite cartoon characters and everything. Same with MS Paint, Microsoft Paint back in the day. I was always doing that. I think and you know what? At year 9, I thought I was going to end up being like a graphic designer or something growing up. The only thing that got me out of drawing was the fact that I did art at GCSE. and at that point, it was like, okay, I'm now painting and drawing stuff that I really don't want to do, and it just kind of put me off it forever. I do appreciate art, but the drawing thing hasn't stuck with me. But writing-wise, I didn't really... So... I kind of came into writing later during 6th form when I was in my study area and I was just writing, at this point, just freestyles to myself. So it was like more rap, lyrical ones. Would never become a rapper just because I don't have the voice for it, but I feel like I could be a good ghostwriter for somebody one day. But after a while at first I was just playing around, so there wasn't really any themes, but then I realized that some of the stuff I was writing started to have more... It started to become more thematic. It started to become a bit more conceptual. And then I wanted to put that into a form that I guess people would take seriously. So I thought, okay, cool, poetry. So then after that, I went to university. When was this? This would have been 2015. Yeah. And joined my Creative Writing Society there. It was a weekly thing. So I would just go there, write poems, primarily poems. I did some prose, but mostly it was poetry I was doing. Did that for a couple of years. And then 2017. Like around the beginning of 2017. The treasurer of my society at the time asked, "Oh, you do poems of some kind?" Toby Campion, director of Unislam, had reached out to the University of Leicester and asked if they wanted to put a team together. So, again, because she knew I did poems of some kind, I was like, okay, cool, this sounds fun. At this point, I didn't know what spoken word was. I think I might have seen like 1 or 2 clips from movies, but otherwise I didn't really know spoken word was a thing. So at this point, I just kind of went online, kind of adapted some of my more primarily page stuff into stuff that I could say out loud, basically. So I went to that Unislam, saw what everyone else was doing with performance poetry, and it was really like inspiring, and especially like the group element of it. It all looked really cool, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever this is, like this performance space, I want to like start doing this more. So it started becoming a thing where I don't know, whereas before I was kind of just writing casually just to say, oh yeah, I'm writing poems. This was like, okay, cool, now I want to actually, learn this, improve, get better, that kind of thing. So, I was writing primarily spoken word for the next couple of years. And then finished uni in 2019. I kind of had a spell kind of at the end of uni where I was like, I don't know, I felt like I wasn't really getting as much out of poetry as I wanted. I was seeing like all of my peers and what they were doing and all the cool things that they were able to do, like Roundhouse, get into collectives, get published, that kind of thing. Whereas I felt a bit stagnated. So took a little break, and I felt like I wanted to kind of go back to basics and sort of improve on that front. Then lockdown hit, 2020. So I couldn't go out and perform anyway. I did some Zoom performances here and there, but I wasn't really a Zoom performer at the time. So I kind of used that time to sit back, workshop a bit more, and learn the craft a bit more, rather than just, I don't know, writing just for the sake of writing. I think at that time I was also... So I did my master's at Leeds at the same time, which is where I joined the Leeds Unislam team for the first time. I was kind of like a performer coach at that point. Then after lockdown, stayed coaching Leeds for the next few years. But then also I got into some other cool poetry collectives. So like Roundhouse, Barbican. I did Obsidian Foundation as well. And again, it was just about building a portfolio of work and like kind of learning the craft side a bit more and kind of doing a page stage blend in my work as well.
So in the whole learning the craft side of it, like from the sound of things, I was saying, like, didn't really get into properly like workshops until the Barbican Roundhouse era kind of thing, or you didn't really work beforehand?
Yeah, I did. So in Creative Writing Society, I led workshops because I was on a committee for a couple of years. But in terms of professional poetry workshops, I hadn't done any before. So I went to the Unislams, and obviously Unislam has
they had the like there. Day of it. But
but other than that, I wasn't really in those collectives at the time. So the kind of main bulk of the workshopping started sort of Roundhouse Barbican era.
I think it's one of the things that I think of a lot with that kind of stuff, where in a good and bad way, I think, again, everyone's different with it, but like I've talked to Joel Orterson about it a little bit, because there were times when people came through the Roundhouse, or even came through Barbican, when if they were coming into poetry via Barbican or Roundhouse first, they had a habit of their voice being so molded by the workshop leaders, etc. So like there was especially when there was an era when like Polar Bear was doing Roundhouse, and even some of Jacob's eras of the Barbican, there've been some poets that come through that sound a lot like Polar Bear and a lot like Jacob, and his moment to find their voice. I think there's something good about been writing and performing beforehand. That when you got to that, you've already kind of started to figure out what your voice is. So it's more refining what your voice is versus starting from scratch. But also at the same time, though, that's not the same for everyone. But I just find it as an interesting thing, and I think at least for you, I'm curious of like how that was for you, of kind of having a voice or like having some writing beforehand and then going into it.
Yeah, you know what? I hear that, and I think we actually had a discussion on this like prior. But I would say what was nice, because I think when you did, correct me if I'm wrong, when you did Roundhouse / Barbican, you were like the kind of early, you were one of the first cohorts, right?
So I was the first ever Roundhouse poet. So that was when before it even become a thing. So this would have been when I was 13 years old. So I can't do maths of when that would have been. That would have been like 20... No, I'd have been older than that. That'd have been 2005-ish, give or take. That's how long ago that was. But like Barbican, I missed the first couple of years of Barbican, but I joined it the year I went to uni, but it was still early days, with like second year of it kind of thing.
Okay,
but obviously because I'd done Roundhouse before that, I'd worked with Jacob for a couple of years. When he was at Roundhouse, he moved to Barbican. I didn't go there immediately, but like the second year, I think I was at it.
Okay, no, the reason I asked was because I guess in the earlier versions of it, I guess Jacob / was it Polar Bear teaching you at the time? Or
so it went Jacob to Polar Bear to... Was it Debris first, then Bogdan? Or Bogdan first, then Debris? But that was roughly... It was like those four not too long after each other kind of thing.
Right, okay. Yeah. Basically, the point was... That was a kind of tangent. But the point was... I guess in those early versions... a lot of people who entered those collectives were kind of coming into poetry for the first time, or like in the very, very early years. So I guess a lot of what they were learning was, firsthand through those facilitators. Whereas when I got into Barbican / Roundhouse, so by the time I got into Roundhouse, it was Cecilia Knapp teaching. I want to say my cohort was a bit more of a mix. So there were some people who were very early years, but then there were other people who had been writing for a bit longer than everyone else. So I was in the writing a bit longer than everyone else bracket as well. And it was nice because I already had themes that I wanted to address, and I already had a sense of what, not my style, because I think I was still trying to find what my style is, if that existed. But I definitely had like my mannerisms that I was starting to become a bit more comfortable with entering my work. And nice thing about Cecilia was, I don't think the way that she taught the Roundhouse was in a way that shifted anyone towards a particular style of writing. I think it was literally a space where we would come in, read some poems, have a chat about it. She would bring in some really random prompts that Cecilia Knapp does, and we would kind of interpret the prompts how we wanted to. And there was no real pressure to like have output. There was no real feedback other than a couple of feedback sessions during the year. So it was very much a space of go in and try to find your voice. It wasn't like trying to lead you anywhere, if that makes sense. You could just, if you didn't like what you did in the session, you could just bin it and Cecilia would never know. So that was nice.
It's also a thing on that, like I think as well, like not that there weren't any open mics when I started doing it, but like they were not as prevalent as they are nowadays. There was nowhere else to really properly do the poetry as well, I think. I think that's also been some level of helpful, that you can do something at a workshop and then do it on the open mic that same week if you wanted to, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly that. This was, because I was back in London at this point, and I think this was post-pandemic, so there were a lot of nights in London that was still kind of trying to build up. But there were still enough nights that, as you said, I could just do something, workshop something at Roundhouse, and then, go to a night once I had a better idea of what I wanted the poem to sound like, and then get live feedback from that. So, I'd say, as much as COVID was annoying, it gave me space to work out kind of what I wanted to accomplish within like the kind of poetry space in terms of my own poetics. And then once I had a better idea of that, I was able to go into things like the Roundhouse, Barbican, BBC Words First as well, which I didn't mention. But I was able to go into spaces like that, and I kind of had a general goal for what I wanted to get out of my stuff. And because again, nights were building up again in London. I got like live feedback from that. So as I said, as much as COVID was annoying, like it was a nice and useful space for me at the time.
Yeah, again, it's the whole thing, like multiple things can be true of, like, COVID was a devastating time for a lot of people, but also it gave people in privilege as well, but it gave people time to have a break and have a pause. Like, I look back on it of, like, my book came out in 2019, first book, and I'd already told myself I want to kind of have a chill 2020, because I've already been working up for the book and doing all that stuff, and was able to do most of my touring stuff in 2019. It's like, 2020 is the year that we cool down. It's like, and then COVID came in, like, not like that, but I needed to cool down anyway, so like it was good to have a rest amidst everything that was going on, though. So it was balancing, but like obviously from there you've gone to do the open mic, etc., and you've now had the book as well. So like, where would you say your present is with your writing and creative outputs? What are you working on at the moment, if anything?
So as you mentioned, book came out. Is it 7? Yeah, it's like 7 months now, which has gone really quickly. I was reflecting on this yesterday, but that came out. I'd had a couple of really big achievements before the book as well. So like through Eric Gregory, and then also my Creative Future Writers Award had connected me with some really cool facilitators like Wayne Holloway Smith, who I'm working with now, just doing a workshop series with him. And then some people within the kind of Creative Futures organization as well, who have offered me, I've not taken this up yet, but they've said I'm able to do a small workshop series in the future if I wanted to.
Nice.
So with that book being out, and to be honest, that just buying me a bit more time. Because there was a while where people were asking, where's the book? Where's the book? So I was like, here's the book. Sharp now. I'm working on I'm not going to say I'm actively working on it. A bigger body of work will come in future.
Because you just got the pamphlet,
it's just a pamphlet. So at some point, a full collection would be worked on. But for the time being, I kind of gave myself space after the pamphlet came out just to, one, rest, because 2025 was really busy for me. There was like all the Unislam stuff as well that I was doing. So one, rest, but then also two, I wanted to kind of get all the old writing out of my head and figure out, okay, cool, what excites me now? So I think right now it's just me playing around with different themes, techniques, ways of thinking, and then also I want to like try and lean back into my performance roots, because I feel like whilst I kind of call myself page stage blend, I felt over the years I was leaning more towards the publishing side of things rather than, and I felt like the kind of true to spoken word roots, if that is a word, or if that's a thing, kind of started taking the back burner a bit more. So I wanted to focus more on the performance side this year as well. So this year is just basically, let me just have this space whilst I can to figure things out. And then hopefully by the end of the year, I know if there's a bigger body of work in future, I know what that's starting to look like, I guess. But yeah, I'm in the play around stage.
That's fair. And I guess like with this then, like obviously in the performance of those things, like would you say for the most part, I know it wasn't a full on tour kind of thing, but like are you done with like the book tour side of it, or do you still feel like there's things you want to take, places you want to take the book still in that kind of a way?
I would say there are places I want to take the book. Yeah, for sure. I was lucky last year. I got to do some really cool things and some really cool venues, gigs. In fact, I did a Loud Poets gig for the first time. Yeah. In fact, I did Loud Poets Slam in the summer, but I did a gig in October.
A feature gig,
yeah, with the Bad Betty crew, which is really, really cool. Went to Edinburgh for the first time, which is nice. So yeah, I got some really cool things, and I think the bulk of the kind of touring was done in the bit between June and December 2025. There's a couple of things lined up, and there are a couple of things I want to still do with it. But I think, yeah, the bulk of that was kind of done at the end. And I said last year was really busy. One on the writing side, but then also even the touring side was a bit busier than I had expected it to be. So whilst I'm still going to obviously promote the book and stuff, it's going to be a lot more chill for this year. When things pop up, I'll do them. But otherwise, I'm not going to kind of go chasing those opportunities, if that makes sense.
Not necessarily seeking anything out, but if something comes up, you're not going to say no to it.
Yeah, exactly that.
Which has been my vibe for every year I've done poetry, to be fair. No, fair. Well, I guess then, like, looking to the future, if you will, like, obviously you mentioned wanting to look back into the spoken word side of things, about the performance side of it a bit more, but, like, I guess not quite going, what's your 5-year, 10-year plan, but, like, what do you want to be looking to do in the future kind of thing? Like, obviously you mentioned a collection, like is there going to be multiple collections, or is it just seeing what happens kind of thing? Do we have any goals we're trying to achieve, anything on the bucket list you want to try and tick off kind of thing?
Good question. I think at least one full collection I want to get done. I might release another pamphlet in between. I'm kind of playing around with that, but I want to, if my poetry career were to end all of a sudden for whatever reason, I wanted at least one full collection to come out.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens after that. I feel like it's the same with music. It's kind of like you build up all your time towards the first kind of major album in music's case, but in this case, collection. Once that's out, it's like, okay, cool. Anything else is kind of like, okay, yeah, as and when I feel it will come out, but there's no real pressure to, have a follow-up kind of thing. So I would hope, multiple things happen, but I mean, same with you. Poetry's not like my full-time thing.
Yeah.
I work as an engineer during my day job, so I'm quite lucky in that I'm still kind of early careers in that. So I've only been at my current job for the last 2 and a bit years, so I'm still quite early. So I still have some semblance of a balance between that and poetry.
Yeah.
Who knows? In the next 5 years, like how much the work-life balance will start to hit. So as much as I would want to say, oh yeah, I'll be able to, put out multiple books in future. Again, don't know what that future looks like because it's not completely dependent on the poetry side.
Never. And I know what my answer is for this. But like with you, like if someone almost, for lack of a better phrase, offered you the job to be a poet full time, would you want that? I mean, obviously, I don't know what fucking means, but like,
yeah, exactly. People ask me this all the time. They're kind of like, oh yeah, am I using the engineering thing as a placeholder? But actually, I'm trying to work towards full-time poetry. It's a hard one because I like that. So I've had a few times in the past where I've kind of gone, I hate poetry. Why am I here? Like, I'm sick of it. I quit, that kind of thing. Not seriously quit, but yeah, I was thinking about it. And I like that when it's not working for me, I can just step back and then it's not the thing I'm relying on. Whereas if it was my full-time thing for whatever that means, obviously if I'm ever like, oh, I'm sick of it, then it's like, well, tough luck. This wasn't paying my bills. I guess the answer is, if I ever got an opportunity that I couldn't refuse and it was something that was able to sustain me to a point where, I'm living comfortably, I'm not like kind of struggling, chasing invoices, that kind of thing, then yeah, I guess, why not? But obviously, the reality of that is,
yeah. No, I feel that.
I don't know a single poet who's like doing it full time that isn't having to balance certain things to kind of make ends meet. Fair play to them, but
like, I don't say exception, but you have a couple of people that have managed to make it. All their income is from poetry. I'm saying all from poetry. Like, I wouldn't say your Holly McNishers of the world, your Harry Bakers of the world. I mean, Harry does a bit more comedy as well, but all their income is from being a creative.
Yeah.
So it is a possibility, but some of that is you have to get such a level of fame, virality, etc., which they worked for, but it's such a odd thing that, like, it's not a common thing at the very least, that to try and, if you offered it, I'm not going to say no to it kind of thing, I think is the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah.
But that job doesn't particularly exist.
Yeah, most people I know who are primarily writers will also do lecturing, facilitating. They'll, I don't know, own a press or something like that. Yeah. Like, there'll be other side hustles that are sustaining, that are like kind of going hand in hand with their poetry, but like it's not. It's something else other than the writing.
Weird, the idea of, like, I don't know anyone who just makes a career out of all I do is perform poetry.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's sustainable. Even I don't know anyone that makes a career all I do is write poetry. I don't know anyone who does purely that. And like, some of it is for the love of doing other stuff. Like, some people like doing, I don't know why, but the people like doing teaching and workshops, etc. So people like doing stuff like that. But like, I don't know anyone that sustains their career on just writing poetry. If you could, would you?
If I could, and people gave me space, and I wasn't having to like churn out a poem a day or something, then I would.
Fair.
But again, will that exist? We'll see. But yeah.
No, that's completely fair. Fine. Well, with our timeline section done, we are going to move on to our next section called Let's Talk About. Now, let's do the whole fun of Let's Talk About. And especially if you're going in or looking to go back into performance and spoken word stuff and focusing on that, I think this is also a wonderful time to start talking about performance. So I guess to almost set a baseline, if you will, let's go for you watching people perform, etc. What do you like about a performance? What makes a performance good as our baseline start off with first?
Just like baseline good.
Well, yeah, like you're watching a performance. What is it about performance that you say this is a good performance?
Okay, just general performance. So I'm not even going into like the poetry or anything. I'm just talking about how people present themselves, I guess.
I mean, however you feel best to answer.
Okay, cool. We'll start with that, and then if I want to go into topic later, cool. Just as a performance, I guess first thing is like know the poem before you go on. And when I say know the poem, I don't mean like memorize it. I mean like, at least familiarize yourself so it doesn't feel like you're encountering the poem for the first time when you're, doing on stage.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, when things even surprise, I can tell when things even surprise the performers. And it just doesn't feel that fluid. So I'd say, at least familiarize yourself enough with it so that you kind of know what's coming up and you know what kind of sound you want to get out of it. I'd say audience engagement. By engagement, again, just mean like occasional eye contact. I don't want to. Okay, again, personal preference, but someone's looking down the entire time. I don't know. I find myself just naturally not zoning out, but I'm not as invested in the poet themselves. Because I feel like I think it's something you've said before, where it's like, okay, you're going to a room to share a poem, but as much as it's performer, going up and sharing, it's also like, well, there's an audience in the room, and it's a two-way thing. The audience, you have to give the audience attention. The audience has to give you attention. So like, it's a it's a balancing act you have to do there as well.
It's my whole idea of like. Again, I have a lot more grace of open mic stuff, but even if you're at an open mic, people have paid money to come to be in this room.
Yeah.
What are you giving them, kind of thing? If you are just performing to yourself, it feels a little bit like, why are we doing this a little bit?
No, exactly.
And again, it's not, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be, look at me, I'm performing, I'm doing my acting thing. Just have a couple of looking up, like acknowledge the fact that we're in a room together, some people are paid money to get in here most of the time.
Yep.
I want to give you a good, entertaining night. And like I said, entertaining doesn't have to be I keep saying entertaining doesn't have to be backflips. If someone does a backflip on stage during the poem, I will fucking give that a 10 out of 10. No matter what
I hear
you can say there was sexist, racist thing on stage. If you do a backflip during it, I will give you a 10 out of 10 for your slam piece. I don't give a shit. And I will be on the record for that. So.
Get I show speed or something for a poetry night.
If you I show speed on the stage, you can do the most racist tirade. If you backflip at the end of it, 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I should not say things on a podcast.
Well, it's here now, it's staying. But yeah, I think you mentioned, so again, don't need, big dramatic hand gestures or anything like that as well, because again, different styles for different people. I think that's the other thing is like, I just want you to be authentic to yourself. Yes. If you're not like a big personality naturally, then kind of don't force it, because then we can kind of see that you're forcing it, like an audience are smart. So if your performance just needs like, I don't know, soft-spoken, assured style or something, then again, do that. I think, just, the thing is just, interact, know your poem, and then also just whatever works for you in terms of your style, just kind of do that and do that well. Don't kind of feel like you need to, pretend to be something you're not, and then that as a baseline, that's basically what I want.
So like jumping on that then. So obviously like you've done some coaching for Unislam stuff, etc., and all that kind of stuff. There's so many people that obviously have so many different voices, etc., and there's no one style fits all. So how do you find what that person's style is, what works for them, etc.? Because obviously things of like the way you perform poetry will never be how I perform poetry, and vice versa. And it's not to say that one is better than the other, so to speak, but obviously it's finding what's right for each person. So how would you approach that? How do we get to find out what works for each person? And then also what works for each poem, because obviously again, even with the person, that poem might be the more performative one, that one isn't. So how do you go about figuring that out?
Good question. So going on to coaching. So there was, it will come to this answer.
You're good.
But yeah, I think, so I had like kind of two main stints of coaching. One was with Uni of Leicester. That was only for like a year that I was coaching, and then I performed the next year. But the main bulk of my coaching has been with Uni of Leeds for the last, 5 years. I'm not doing it now, because kind of retired from the coaching side now. But
Retired win.
No, it's time. Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, my first year of doing the Leeds coaching, I remember at this point, this was during COVID, so this was before I joined the Roundhouse and stuff. So this was just, I'm doing the coaching just based on the few years I've seen open mic performances, Unislam performances and stuff, and just read a bit as well, just to get the craft side of it a bit more. Yeah. At that time, I distinctly remember the team did well. The team got fourth overall, so got to the finals and finished fourth. But I do distinctly remember, just because this is all I had known, I was basically, I almost feel like I turned the team into a team of Francis's in terms of quite narrative styles, quite assured performances without having to do too much, that kind of thing. And post that Unislam, and especially once I started Roundhouse, I realized that this was something I was doing. So, I think realizing someone's style, a common question I ask anyone I'm mentoring when they start practicing a poem, I kind of ask how present do you feel when you're doing it? Because I don't know about you, for example, but I know back in the day, before, so like pre-29 Francis performing was so much different to how I was like coming out of lockdown, like completely different entities. I kind of remember pre-lockdown, a lot of the kind of big personality type performances I was doing, a lot of the time to do that, I would kind of need to almost adopt a persona and like lock my present. I wasn't really present. I didn't feel present. I kind of felt like I had to lock that bit of me behind and have no shame in order to be able to do the performances I was doing. Whereas now I try to make sure that I am present in what I'm doing. And if I feel like I have to kind of hide a part of myself in order to do this performance, then I don't feel like that's something I can do. So I ask the same to my kind of mentees. How present do you feel? Do you feel out of body, or do you feel like fully here? When most of the time they'll be honest and say if they feel out of body or not. And I'm like, okay, cool. If you feel like you're not really present, then you can take whatever kind of energy you think you're putting into the performance, you can kind of take that back, reel it back a bit. And then if you feel like, okay, now the poem's suffering because now you've dialed the energy back a bit and you feel a bit more you know, how can you kind of rewrite the poem in order to cater to you a bit more? So I think that's like, obviously there's many things you could do, but I think the first thing is just like, how in the room do you feel? Especially if you have an audience there with you. Do you record the audience much, or do you feel like you've kind of zoned the audience out to do that kind of thing? Again, I don't know. With you, does that kind of make sense, resonate?
It makes no sense. Like, I think, so like, I got a couple of things in my head there. Like in terms of the present thing, I don't know there's no right answer to this, but I think back a lot to Katie Ailes' Doctor on Spoken Word, which I reference so fucking much. Have I read it? No, I fucking haven't. Have I talked to Katie about it a lot? Yes, I have. But like, we were talking about like authenticity in poetry and whatnot, and the idea, especially spoken word primarily, it was about spoken word, and the idea of like, we kind of crave authenticity in spoken word, therefore there's a level of wanting someone to be present in it so that you're properly feeling it at the time as well. But with that, it's amusing because when she was asking people about it, you'd get some people that would be like, I can't think of a good example. I'll use myself as an example here, that's for ease, of like, if we're dealing with my mum poem and the fact that my mum's not here, and then talking about that, like how much of those feelings I have to be engaging with when I'm performing the poem and how much I don't. And there are some people that would be like, I need to be so far removed from that feeling.
That's fair.
That I feel comfortable performing that poem. Where some people, like, I need to kind of almost bring it up again slightly to be able to perform that poem authentically. Yeah. And none of them are right or wrong.
Yeah.
I just find it amusing that there are people that will need to be feeling it and don't need to be feeling it, kind of thing. And I think I lean towards I don't need to feel it. I can, for the most part, slip into, if I need to perform this poem, I can perform. Yeah. If you need to perform in 5 minutes, I can perform in 5 minutes no matter what. Admittedly, some poems I might get it, because of the nature of like, of late when I'm doing my mum poem, I feel it more, unsurprisingly. Yeah. So it will get to me as I'm doing it, kind of thing. It's especially because I have a habit of late, whenever I perform to people that don't know my mum, I feel the need to explain my mum to them first, which by its nature makes me feel more mum stuff, and therefore I'm feeling it more as I'm doing it, kind of thing. But overall, I just find it, there's no good answer to it, but I find it amusing seeing how people are present or not present, and how some people actively need to not be present to make the poem work for them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And also, I guess, well, if we use the mum poem example, you have been performing that for a while, so which is it does get to a point where you're kind of like, okay, regardless of how I'm feeling, I kind of know my body how I want to perform this anyway. So
it's an interesting one, because like there's a sense of autopilotness to it, which always sounds like I'm doing it a disservice, but there is just some kind of autopilotness to it. But there's also, I think for me, the present side of it is more about being present in the room I'm in, enough to kind of know that they've laughed at this line. I can pause here and let them laugh at it, kind of thing. So like, it's one of the things, whenever I tell people, whenever I'm doing workshops with people, I don't do it much, but when I do workshops with people about performance stuff, I kind of say, know your poem. Yeah. Again, doesn't have to be off by heart, but like, know your poem enough, and also and when you're learning it, learn it in different ways, because there's no night that's going to be the same. So crowds will react differently, and some crowds will be louder than others or respond differently to others. Yeah. And you don't want that to throw you off. If they laugh at a line you won't expect them to laugh to, or if they react to a line you won't expect them to laugh to, you don't want that to throw you off so much that you can't get back to the poem or whatever. So know it enough to kind of be able to, and I'm not saying heckling full on kind of thing, but like, people reacted here. It's because like, you go to a Unislam crowds will react. Yeah. So you kind of, and I think I've seen a few people at Unislam that kind of a bit like, your people are reacting, but I need to say my poem, so kind of speak through the reactions. Yep. That means people hear the rest of your lines, kind of thing. You're talking over them reacting to your poem. Yep. So I think there's definitely a level of like, learn your poem enough to be comfortable. That's me saying this. Be comfortable enough to have a couple of pauses and sit in that, like, oh, you laughed. Break. Yeah. But also know enough to like, okay, you laughed a bit, and now I'll make you stop laughing, and you need to get back and finish the poem.
Yeah, no, and again, coming back to coaching, kind of to my team's annoyances. I kind of drilled it into them. 3 minutes, because Unislam obviously has a 3-minute limit. Most slams do. Well, 3 minutes plus a 10-second grace period. But yeah, I've kind of drilled into them. 3 minutes is a limit, not a target. Most of the time, I tried to cut the team's poems to around 2 minutes 30 when practicing, because you go into Unislam and it's like whatever you've been practicing either within the group or within like a, I don't know, seminar space is very different to how it will be on stage. And it's like you said, people will react, but then also just you being on stage at that point, you never know. You could end up performing slower on the day. Yeah. You could end up, if you tried to memorize the poem and then you end up forgetting your lines or something, you need you need a bit more of a grace period to your grace period to get all that back. So if you were performing a poem that was like 3 minutes, absolute perfection, and then you went up and then the absolute perfection didn't happen, or there were things that happened that you didn't account for, then that obviously ends up
off kind of thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. So then it ends up going into penalty territory, and which you never want a slam to be decided by like time penalties. So yeah, I kind of said, if judges don't vibe with your poem, fair. If your audience doesn't vibe with your poem, fair. But I don't want something that's within your control to be the reason why you don't end up doing well, kind of thing.
No, I feel that, and I think one of the things for me when it came to performance, and it's one that stuck with me the most because it's such a simple one, is there was one time that John Berkovich was guest teaching at the Roundhouse.
Yep.
And we were coming up to our Roundhouse showcase. And in terms of the performance workshop, one of his main things was basically asking, cool, why do you write that poem? And kind of get into the bit like, if you tell me why you wrote that poem, okay, cool. What do you want the audience to get out of it then? Okay, and how are you going to do that? Or how are you going to make people feel that way, do that reaction and the thing? And obviously some of it will be the writing of the poem leads to an emotional thing, but like, what are you as a performer going, like, I wanted to laugh at, okay, cool, you've got some good jokes in here, now you need to make sure you deliver the jokes, or I wanted to make them feel sad, okay, writing can lean into that a lot. How is your performance going to aid that, help that kind of thing? Because I think that's a bit of it for me, like, rather than necessarily being like present all the time, thing of like, what this poem, why am I doing this poem? And like, it goes back to, again, my thing of like, and I know, again, more grace open mics, but like, I'm sharing this poem out to people. Why do I want them to listen to me?
Yeah.
What do I want to get out of this? Okay, if I want them to get this out of it, what am I doing to aid that, help them get that feeling, etc.?
Yeah, and you know what? Come back to the mentoring side of it. Because, I don't know, coaches are different in Unislam. Yeah. There are some coaches that are just like, I say just like, this isn't to dismiss them. There's some coaches that will be more involved with the poetry side of things than others. Some people are just like, I don't know, here's a team, I'm gonna do all the admin, I'm gonna make sure they get to Unislam with like 3 poems, etc. And like, that's the extent of it. They don't really meddle with the poems too much. And then there are other coaches like myself who are very like mentory, facilitatory, if that's a word. And they'll kind of get into the nitty gritty of the poems and like try to actually, workshop them and like kind of get them to a good state, that kind of thing. So there was a point to this. This is what I do. I end up tangenting. Yeah. So whenever I'm feeding back, so it's like, again, something I was doing early days, which again I had to kind of unlearn, is I would initially go into feedback thinking, okay, what do I, as Francis, like in a poem, and then like try to give feedback that says it that way. Whereas what I've started to realize over the years is, okay, so the person who came in clearly had an intention behind that poem that might not be present to me at that point. So before I give any feedback, I want to see what they actually want to do with that poem. And then once I learn that, and once I kind of learn a bit about the background as to their motivations behind it, sometimes the poem ends up, completely flipping anyway, but it's more because, okay, I've now learned their intentions and we've had a chat and we've decided, okay, cool, if this is actually what you want to do, then, here's how you go about it, that kind of thing. So it's less about what do I like in poetry, because, I've had mentees who are very, very stylistically different from me. Yeah. And that's, again, something I've had to learn to adapt to. But, it's less about what do I like in poetry and more like, okay, cool, what's actually serving the poet at that point and serving their intentions. So, I think it's, in general, like, it's helped my poetic practice anyway. Yeah. Just in terms of, okay, cool, now I can get into more styles of poetry than I wouldn't have in the past because I didn't pay that much attention to it. Fair. But then also, I said it means I'm helping the poets themselves like actually discover themselves rather than kind of just again turning everyone into a Francis Mark II kind of thing.
Well, so. on a practical sense, then looking at kind of your poetry and like, how do you approach taking a poem from the page to the stage? Like, how involved are you in? Like, how involved and how conscious are the things you do in your poem? Kind of thing. Like, do you have like, way to be specific? Like, do you kind of go like, I'm going to give a long pause here, or I'm going to make sure this line is emphasized? Like, how do you break it down? How much that is also like, for practical side of it, how much of that is actively going, this line is that, and how much of it is just naturally, as I'm writing it, as I'm reading it, whatever, I just feel to slow down here, speed up here?
Good question. Very good question. When I'm writing it, so if I'm writing a poem and there are very intentional gaps in there, by gaps I mean pauses, then obviously I'll write the poem and like I intend to have those there, and then I'll, at the very least, however performance goes, I know that those gaps are going to be there. Some of it is just like me. So this is why open mics are like quite good for me.
Yeah.
I'm able to go into a space. I'm able to test it out in terms of, well, one, just how it sounds coming out of my mouth, because like sometimes what looks good on page will end up sounding a bit cluttery when I actually read it out loud. And it's like, okay, cool, I now need to tone this down a bit, or like I need to leave a bit more gap here because I know that the audience didn't really register that, so I need to,
I feel that, and also I feel as well there's some lines where it's like, this is still a good line, my mouth just can't get around it.
Exactly that.
It's a good line though, but I can't say it.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. And with me, like having this speech impediment that I have over the years, I've had to realize that, okay, as much as I like, really long, rambly, cluttery lines, it's like, well, I can't do it. So I do need to, just for my own sake, I need to like start paring these down a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of those pauses, especially like with the pausing stuff, and with the gaps I leave. Yeah, I said some of that is just I'm in the room and for whatever reason I feel like there's a certain line or certain lines that have a certain gravity to them that I feel like I'd be doing a disservice by rushing it. Yeah. I know I've practiced a lot on pausing and stuff over the years, so it's not as scary to me, but I do know how unnerving it can be, especially for people who aren't used to that, to kind of leave. Yeah. Even a second gap is like, a second gap is still like quite long to a lot of people, and they don't, it feels longer to them than it actually is in the room kind of thing. So, I'd say, I guess to answer the original question, some of it is you know what? So all right, I write some poems that are exclusively 4-page, as in like I know that this isn't something that's that translates itself well to stage in that way, and I'm happy to leave it in that form. Vice versa, I know that there are other things that work purely in performance, and I know I need performance for that, and I, if I try to do it in page, it just won't. There's some ways I can adapt it, but like other ways, for the most part, I can't really do it justice on page. It only works out in the space. Yeah. And then there are other ones, and my pamphlet actually is full of quite a few of them, where I will write a page version. Yeah. And I know that in performance, I can't translate this page version in exactly the same way. And so I will, on stage, figure out, okay, the poem has to adapt slightly, it has to change slightly, or I need to be doing certain things a bit differently. So to a point where it's still the same poem in terms of the content and everything, but in terms of like how I'm delivering it, they occupy very different spaces. And I think, and I was talking to other people about this, like it's not something that a lot of poets, okay, I won't say a lot of poets, but it's something that a few poets, when they kind of take their work from stage and like put it directly into a book and then just put it out, they're not really reacted to the fact that it's now in a book and it won't work exactly the same way if you do it in a book as you do on stage.
It was one of the things like with my Grind My Gears poem, because I've built into it aside to the audience, how do I make that work in book form.
Yeah, exactly.
So whereas that was probably like, I'm going to use like footnotes. Footnotes was the way to do it, where it's going to read different on the page than it is on the stage.
Yeah, that's really good.
But it is that thing of it's almost that vibe of like, I know it's not the same thing, but a vibe of the band that has here is our live version, here's our album version. They're the same song, but occupying different forms. I think is definitely and it's the thing I like to think of a lot. Like it's one of the things I think of most with a lot of art stuff in general, of like knowing the medium you're working in. It's why some of the Zoom stuff over the lockdown didn't vibe with me, because it's people trying to port stuff from performing one-to-one to Zoom, ignoring that you are in a different space here because of cameras and audience reactions, etc. There's so many things that are changed here. You can't just port it one-to-one. You have to adapt to the space you're in.
Exactly.
But like in that kind of adapting to the space you're in, like you seem very comfortable on the stage. And how much for that for you was like always comfortable on the stage, or was that like a thing where you had to kind of get used to it to be comfortable on the stage?
I think it was getting used to it. The first like proper stage I ever performed on was Unislam 2017. Before that, I was performing mainly to like my creative writing group in the build up to Unislam. At that point, I was fine. Once I got to Unislam, it was I did a poem that usually I knew like the back of my hand, and then ended up forgetting my lines midway through, and then that completely threw me. And then I ended up like not trying to do anything from memory for like the next year, just because I was scared of messing up again. And then once I kind of got more into the open mic scene in 2018, I was kind of like, okay. Actually, was this 2018? No, it was like kind of 2019 when I started going a bit more off book. I think it was just at that point. Yeah, at that point it was like, okay, just do something from memory. Especially in open mics where they're like quite, kind. If I mess up, it's like I mess up. It happens. Even professional poets do it. Kind of thing. So I kind of took that pressure on myself, and once I started getting a bit more comfortable with that. I think once I started getting like a bit more comfortable with my poems and like knowing my poems, especially with the memorizing thing, it was like, okay, cool, that's one hurdle gone. Now that I know it a bit more, how am I able to be present with the audience? And then once I kind of got over the fear, I don't know if it was ever a big fear, but obviously there were slight nerves around, I'm now aware of the audience. I'm now aware of like how they're looking at me, how they react and that kind of thing. It was just, I think it was just like, after a bit, basically it was just practice. Like it was like one hurdle at a time. Once I got over those hurdles, it was like, okay, cool. And especially kind of post lockdown, once I realized stylistically how I tend to present myself in poems, it felt more natural doing that. So like I can, for the most part, I can go up and do a poem and like there is a general way I present myself that is very comfortable for me to do. If I had to, I don't know, then present a bigger version of myself for a poem one time, I don't know how that would look. That might be a bit more, have to practice again to like kind of be more present in that space. But for the most part, if there's like a standard performance I'm doing, I'm quite like, even if it's just a new poem, I'm still a bit more assured in like how I generally present myself. That is quite easy for me. But the answer is it wasn't always easy. It was like, I just kind of open mic'd and put myself out there as much as possible, and then I built that up.
That makes sense. Like I am very fortunate. I started when I was 13 years old, so I was almost too young to properly get. I mean, not too young to get stage fright, but I was too young to fully understand what I was doing, if you will.
Yeah.
But by the time I was like 18 and doing it a bit more regularly, I'd had 5 years of experience at that stage now. So it was like, being on stage is fine kind of thing. So I mean that I had a very good head start of like 18 and I'm fine on stage.
Yeah.
And then kept going from there. So like, because also things as well of like, I am aware, as is often the thing, and I get feedback on it a lot, I talk fast. We know this. This has not been a nervousness. I just naturally talk fast. This is how I am thing. But I'm very comfortable on stage all the time. So it's never been like a nervous thing or talking fast. It's always been Tyrone talks fast. This is what we do.
Yep.
People, for the most part, understand me somehow.
I think you do a good job with catering your poems to the fact that you are a fast talker, and so you put enough in there that even with talking fast, like people generally register what it is you're saying, even if it's because nobody retains 100% of a poem.
Oh no, I mean, even if they be talking slow, no one remembers a fucking 100% of a poem straight away.
Exactly. But like you give enough context in there that it works for your style.
Yeah.
Whereas for someone who catered for a slower poem that talks fast, and it's obviously a different thing.
But it is that thing of like I've been doing it for long enough that like I'm very comfortable on stage and go on stage no matter what, and like as we kind of wrap up this kind of section, I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, which again worked for me.
Yep.
I'm not saying it worked for everyone, but the favorite advice that I got was like, the audience don't fucking know your poem. Even if you're doing the same poem over and over again, you could have changed it that day and they don't know.
Yep.
So again, at some level of you can over exaggerate it, but some level of the audience don't know you've made a mistake unless you let them know you've made a mistake.
Yep.
And I remember, like, it's probably would have been like 2017, 2018. There was one time I did my I Am Groot poem at Unislam, at very early days when the Roundhouse were there as just like to fill in performing stuff. And I remember I got off stage and Daisy came up to me and went, "You forgot that poem midway through, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yep, I did." Fully forgot. Like, I just missed the stanza completely, but just kept going.
Fair.
Cause I think that was the first. Ironically, I think that was the first time I'd actually seen some of the loud poets, because University of Edinburgh was there. The first time I met Katie, for example, and like they enjoyed my stuff, and they ended up doing, because I happened to be in Edinburgh Fringe that year, and they're doing something with the loud poets that year. But like, they'd seen me on a gig that I messed up my poem in, but I didn't let them know I'd messed it up, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's one of the things I've taken to heart of like, I will forget my poems a lot. Yeah, but if I don't let you know I've messed it up, because again, people don't retain 100% of their poem all the time, so like you get the general gist of it, and it's not to say that, well, this line is pointless, I can get rid of the poem. Yeah, but it is a bit of like, we can let this stanza go today, and just keep going, and it's fine. I can be aware of it, but don't let the audience in unless I want to. And like, to be fair, I have of late. I remember when I did Brighton, what must have been last year? Sure. I forgot my poem midway through, so made a point of going to my book and go, I'm going to get out my book, which is available for sale. Hey, I'm going to read it from the book, which is available for sale. It's like, it's like I'm going to let you in on I made a mistake, but I'm going to make it part of the performance and still give you something, rather than just, shit, I forgot. Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to stop for 2 minutes. Let's figure it out, and then go back to, like, I'm going to stop, is my overall thing of like, I don't like the idea of stopping midway through a performance in that kind of way. And I know it's not going to be easy for everyone, and not all poems are going to work best with it, but I think it is just the idea of like, just keep going sometimes. I'll also say, here's where pausing a lot of the time helps me, because there are times where like I have, even for poems I'm really comfortable with, I've gotten my line midway through and have to catch it. But because I am someone who just like puts pauses everywhere, people actually don't clock. I've forgotten the line at some point, so it is something that works for me. But I think something I tell my team as well is like, again, if you forget a poem, it happens. But for whatever you do, just don't go like shit or something, because it's like you said, no one will know that you forgot it until you start reacting like that. And then at that point, it's like, I don't know, it will like kind of it will distract the audience as well a bit, because then I'll like, instead of kind of fully engaging with your words, now they're kind of going, oh, are they gonna mess up again, that kind of thing, and they can't really get fully with what it is you're saying, if that makes sense. Like, again, I think some of it comes down to, I've done so much hosting and improv stuff in that sense, like I can bring the audience with me if I have forgotten, much like I said, I'll do the book stuff, etc. So that thing of like, again, people make mistakes, and we know people make mistakes, so like, if you are human, not human's the wrong phrase, but like, if you let people in on the joke kind of thing, they will go with you, versus making them feel uncomfortable about it, of like, oh no, I fucked up kind of thing. Yeah. Let them in on it. But like, I guess for you, like, just to finish off the section, like, any advice you would give to people for performances, etc., anything like that's worked really well for you, other than obviously the whole, other than what's already been said.
No, exactly. Advice for what, the general performers? I would say, I would say, well, there's a practice side, but then also I would say, this is something especially within London, because like London has such a varied scene, and there are different corners of London that will perform different things. There's an audience, there's an audience for everything.
Yes.
And with that, I will say, if a poem doesn't necessarily land with one group, that's not to say that the poem's bad.
Yeah.
It's just, obviously, that group is used to, certain things that they like that your poem at that point didn't hit, but there'll be like another scene that will appreciate you. So, I think getting audience feedback in that sense is good. And, I would say still expose yourself to different audiences because you never know. If you could think, I usually perform to like young poets and, I'm now going to a space where the general demographic is quite older and I don't know how it's going to land. Go there, worst thing happens and they don't really vibe with you. It's like, okay, cool. I tried it. It didn't work. Fine. But if it ends up being that general audience, I don't know, did end up vibing with yourself as much as the kind of younger poets did, then cool. That's another thing you can add to your repertoire, I guess. So, I say explore different scenes, but then also I say, as I said, don't be discouraged by if your poem doesn't land elsewhere. Like I said, it could surprise you. It could happily surprise you, or at least you kind of know, okay, cool, it's not really vibing there. Fine. I tried. I'll go back to what's comfortable.
Fair play. Well, now with that done, we're going to go to the more wackier side of things. We're going to go our whole slow fire questions. And now we're going to do our section called slow fire questions. We're going to go through 5 of these questions and give them time to properly answer them. These are not going to be serious all the time. We'll see how it goes. It's fine. Tangents and all that stuff. Like, we're on, I don't know what episode number this is. I should know what episode numbers of podcast. It's been enough episodes of the podcast. If you don't know by now, you don't know. You're fine. You'll get it. It's easy to understand. It's fine. Yeah. Cool. Can you give me a random number in between 1 and 100, please?
We'll start with 1. We'll see like what your first question was.
Well, the first question is poetry slams or open mics?
Oh, we just did a whole thing on this. Ooh, that's a good question. I will say, okay, I'm gonna say as a performer, open mics. But if I was just to go to a night of poetry, regardless of whether I was performing or not, I'd say poetry slams. I hesitantly say poetry slams, but I'd say poetry slams.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with that. Like, I love an open mic, but also part of why I love an open mic is I'm part of the community at the open mic. If I was bringing a friend along kind of thing, I feel like I would be more inclined to bring them to a slam.
Yeah.
If it was just generic slam versus generic open mic versus obviously there was some specific open mics, I'd go, come to that anyway, you'd love it.
Yeah.
But just generally, slams I do think by their nature, and I will always frame it as people naturally bring out some of their more polished stuff as a slam.
Yeah.
I think inherently then makes it a bit more of a audience-friendly night to go to and appreciate.
Yeah, I would say, and the reason why I say poetry slams is I have a love-hate relationship with slam. So, like, as much as I love uni slam and I gush about it for ages, and I've discovered my favorite poems from like uni slam, for example, and other slam scenes. Yeah. Obviously, the whole competitive side of it is, something I love-hate. Yeah. But in general, in terms of like just the poetry and just what it gets people to do, I'd say, in general, with the open mic scene, it's very rare that, again, maybe in my earlier days it might be different, but with me having been around for a while, it's very rare that I get surprised much by an open micer, and that's because an open mic is, for the most part, people are there to test stuff out. Yeah. Test stuff out to different audiences as well. And, there's absolutely a space for that, and I love that, and it will continue to happen. But yeah, with slams, as you said, people bring out their more polished pieces a lot of the time. People are a lot more, I guess, daring with what they want to bring out as well. Obviously, there's a whole, slam topic thing. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, which is a whole nother conversation in itself. But, with it, obviously, it's the same with open mics. Like, that's going to be, there's I'd say for the most part, the degree of quality, or what's the word? Like, the kind of space, the kind of gap between the best performer and open mic and, the quote-unquote worst performer, or, the most unpolished one, I guess is generally greater on a open mic scene than it is on a slam. I'd say like the gap isn't as big on a slam.
No, I do feel, and again, it's not to say that shouldn't happen, again, because open mics by their nature open to everyone, but it does, in that it can bring over the person who's their first time performing anything ever, and like, as the community side of it, love that for you, will support it. I'm not going to say it shouldn't happen, but also, I don't say objectively, because it can't really do it objectively, but there was some level like, oh, it's still shit though.
Yeah.
Like, love that you're doing it.
Exactly.
And again, as someone who fucking hosts open mic stuff, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not going to go to your face and tell you, that was nice, it was a shit poem. But, like, I'm not going to do that kind of thing. But there is definitely a level of like, that was clearly your first time.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, some people are annoyingly good at their first times, and I'm aware of that shit as well, but no.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same with me. Like, I first, again, pre-2019, I was just trying to still find my feet as a poet, and like, there's a lot of poems I did then that I wouldn't listen to now, but I need those spaces because I wouldn't be where I am without the spaces.
Yeah, we all need to go through that, so again, by all means keep doing it, but also, again, it's also why I don't necessarily blame poets that are later in their career that don't go to open mics as much. Like, I think you should still try and check them out every now and then, but also I don't blame of like, I don't need to listen to bad poetry.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I don't blame people for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I think one as well, I think for me, I think because of the time limit nature of poetry slams, they have a habit of moving faster, which I think can be nice at times. Yeah. That I'm not going to badmouth them on the podcast, but like there is, like I can at best listen to 5 minutes of bad poetry kind of thing at a time. Like you're pushing it even there kind of thing. Like if you give me a 3-minute slot and you're done, perfect.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. So yeah, I think that's the answer. It's like, if I was a casual audience member going into and just wanting to, watch a good night of poetry, and I didn't want it to be a great disparity between like what the best and worst is. Yeah. I would generally go to a slam. Nice. And I said I've discovered a lot of my favorite poems from the slam scene versus the open mic scene. So
give me another number, please.
We'll go 23.
Then we are going for, who is your favorite musician?
Oh my gosh. Favorite musician. Okay. There's two answers. All right. So there's a historic answer to this, where throughout, my time in school and like kind of who was influencing me and like who I was returning to a lot, there's an answer for that, which can't really say anymore because over the last few years, the person in question has just, become a bit of a prick, for one of a better word. I think we could probably guess who that might be.
Have I got a poem about them?
Sorry?
Have I got a poem about them?
You do have a poem about them.
Does Kayla not like it at all?
I don't think Kayla's the only person who would. So we'll give that person props for, just what they did for me growing up. But I can't do that.
That's fair.
So the current answer I'd say is Michael Kiwanuka.
Fair.
I'd say, well, we have similar backgrounds. We both Ugandan heritage. We both kind of grew up in Haringey Borough as well. Yeah. And we both kind of find ourselves occupying spaces that I guess traditionally weren't really meant for us. So like he's in the kind of folk soul indie scene, which is, especially for someone like him, is very hard to like be successful in, and he is successful. Yeah. Whereas with me, the kind of spaces I occupy, especially within poetry world, I don't know, I resonate a lot with that side of things, but then also musically, I don't know. So I'd say he's somewhat, so I don't know, before I go into this actually, are you more of an albums person or a singles person?
Probably singles, I think, is my overall thing. Like I've got so many songs in my favorites playlist. So I've got one song from this album, one song from that album. Like there are some bands like E21 Pilots for me that I'll listen to their whole album. Yeah. But a lot of bands, like I had this because of late at least, there's been a lot of like, oh, Spotify's given me this playlist of rock music, so here's 2 songs per artist kind of thing versus a whole album. Yeah. So like it's often singles in that sense. Okay, fair.
So like with me, I'm primarily albums because I think I came in through mostly listening to rap. So most of the time, especially conscious rappers, they have quite conceptual albums. So I tend to listen the whole way through. Yeah. At least the first time. And then if I don't like the album, I might just pick my favorite songs from it and that's it. But yeah, with Michael Kiwanuka, I'd say he's very good at curating an entire experience through an album. And it's like, with the self-titled Kiwanuka album specifically, you know, my Spotify Wrapped is so boring every year because I know what's going to happen. Like, because I'm primarily an albums person and because I play that album so much, my Spotify Wrapped ends up just being like the last 4 tracks from that album, like in my top 5.
Yeah, fair.
Just because of sheer volume of the amount of times I played it. But yeah, I'd say some of my favorite albums of all time are albums that almost in terms of the style of each individual song, it shouldn't mesh well into a, you know, cohesive body of work just because they're so different. But the artist has found a way to do that and it makes a really great experience. So I'd put like, I don't know, Beyonce's Lemonade in there, for example. Fair. I'd put like I don't know, Michael Jackson's Thriller album there, for example, because there's, again, very different songs there. But yeah, with that Kiwanuka album, I'd say it's something you have to listen to from start to finish. I feel like you'd be doing it a disservice by listening to just specific songs. And that's the same. Yeah, no, exactly. There are people who shuffle first time when they listen to an album, you know, like really.
I think for me, a lot of that comes down to like which artist it is kind of thing. Like, for lack of a better phrasing here, and I'm not... Linkin Park, I'm okay shuffling. 21 Pilots, I will listen to in order, kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Like again, there's some level of the artists plays a factor for me, kind of thing in that sense.
That's fair. I'd say for the most part, well, yeah, for the most part, at least for the first listen, I'd say most people will have picked the album order for a reason.
Yeah,
there are some people that are like, okay, cool, you can actually get away with shuffling it. Like a lot of rappers these days, for example, is basically like just a mixtape of songs. So I don't mind if someone did that after the next few listens. But
well, it's one of the. I think of it. I know we're going on tangents here, but it's one of the things I think of with like the books I have, or things of like, there's so many poetry books I've had of both people I know, but also ones I bought from like stores, etc., where I will have a habit of opening the book randomly and just get a taste of what the poetry is. Yeah. And I know with my book, things of like, there is an order to the book, but also it can be read out of order, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think of that as well, of like things of like, it's if you read it in the order, it's good, and there are some things that flow together well. Yeah. But these are good enough pieces that you can read them in whatever order you want to, and they still hold up. Yeah. Is I think my overall thing. I think like that with some of the music stuff as well. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Especially not so much poetry collections, but like well, anthology is definitely a follow you could just read in. Anthology definitely. Anthology you could do that. Pamphlets for the most part, I feel like you can as well, because I feel like with pamphlets, a lot of people, it's like kind of an early showing with their work, so we'll just be like, okay, here's the body of work I built up recently. And there's literally less space to play around with stuff in that kind of a way. Yeah, exactly. So like, here's the body of work I've released over the last few years, like, here you go. It's kind of like the mixtape almost of poetry before you get to poetry collections. So yeah, that approach works for, I think as you said, there are certain artists like different forms that a shuffle or like a random assortment of poems/songs are fine. But then there are others that I said, they specifically create the album so that it all kind of tells one story. Yeah. And I said I put Michael Kiwanuka in that bracket. Nice. Yeah, if, again, plug, but please, anyone who's never, listened to him, at least listen to that Kiwanuka album the first time, front to back. I've never recommended that album to someone, they listened to it and been disappointed, was all I'll say. Give me another number, please. We'll go 77. Then we are going for, what poet would you love to see live? Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's gonna be someone from the US, probably. That makes sense. Because I feel like a lot of the British poets I would have wanted to see, I have seen in some shape or form. I'm gonna say Joshua Bennett. I don't know if you've ever watched Joshua Bennett's poetry. That name sounds familiar. US poet. I don't think he's not on the bottom side. He's more he's prominent within the spoken word space. Like, he's a very prominent performance poet, but like really, really good craft as well. I don't know if have you ever heard the poem 16 Bars for Kendrick Lamar? Don't think so. That's one of his like more prominent poems. I feel like you'd enjoy it. So there's that, and also Still Life of Black Death, which I really like as well. But yeah, I'd say
I say Joshua Bennett if I had to pick the first person that came to my head. He put out an album. I'm still in music mode. He put out a collection recently called Ode, which I really, really, really like. I read it and loved it. I would say if there was a US poet that I would want to emanate, it would probably be him. I give him a check. I'd say also I'll throw another like few US poets in there, like Terrence Hayes, Jericho Brown as well. Like I watched Dana Smith like last year. That was really, really Dana Smith is just brilliant human, brilliant poet, brilliant brilliant with the audience as well.
Yes.
So I was really, really gassed when they came over to the UK. I would also say, I've not seen Rudy Francisco, so I put Rudy Francisco in as well. I know other people in the UK who have seen him and have said really good things.
Yeah.
But I'd say Joshua Bennett is my number one.
Nice. 2 more. Then give me another number, please.
We'll go with 31.
Then we are going for what's your proudest moment in poetry?
I was going to say the book, but I'd probably say the Eric Gregory award that I got. Just because that came at a time where, again, I felt a bit stagnated in terms of I don't know how ready I am. I knew like a book, for example, was something I wanted to build up to.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how ready I was necessarily. So that manuscript that I submitted for the Eric was like, okay, cool, I'll see what happens here. If it ends up doing well, great. If not, then I know what to work on, kind of thing. Again, people shouldn't need that kind of validation. But it's kind of what I needed at the time. So I think without that, there is no, like all the stuff that happened afterwards, so like book getting published, and also like some of the people I've been able to meet, like Raymond Antrobus, Wayne Holloway Smith, and some of the other people in my Eric Gregory cohort. Without that, a lot of the other things that happened afterwards wouldn't happen. So I'd say that was a big moment for me.
Nicely done. And then lastly, one more number, please.
We'll go 6.
Then lastly, this brings us wonderfully full circle. Page poetry or performance poetry?
We're ending on this. Oh my God.
That is a full circle moment.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer person. Page or performance? Okay, you know what? If
I know you don't have to pick, but for now you have to pick.
Okay, you know what? It does surprise people when I say this, considering especially everything that's happened over the last few years. But if I could only do one thing ever again, like if I had to only, do the publication side or only be on stage, I would say I would miss the stage more. I feel like I love the page side.
Yeah.
Like, especially with how I am on page. Like, I like the white space and I like seeing what I can do with putting words around and finding different forms and different ways to visualize that. I love that, but I feel like the stage is like my natural poem. I feel like I would... And also, I feel like I would rather, in the topic of like, quote unquote bad poetry.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd rather listen through more bad poetry than to read it. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I feel like there's a lot I can get out of performance poetry, as an audience member versus like as a reader. Kind of, I'm taking the like absolute worst extreme. Obviously, good stage versus good page is obviously another thing. But
I mean, it's one of the things I think for me where like phrasing this properly. I think the thing for me is that like I have loved my moments with page poetry, and I fucking loved that my book was in bookstores, etc. Like that was like a really nice moment, and I think I will always remember going into when they had it Camden Waterstones, and my book being on the display table next to Gil Scott Heron. That was like, cool, this is lovely moment here. But because this is just, I know I'm doing it as a kind of career, but this is just the good hobby I'm doing. The part of the hobby I like is the being in the community and performing and that side of it, and I love that instant reaction response and just being a part of it in that sense. And like, not that it's not a community thing, but I think the page things are at times a bit too detached, a bit too I'm not personally experiencing it.
Yeah.
For me to get all of my enjoyment out of it. And then obviously, like, I think that's why you look at your people. I'll even fucking say people like your Jake Wild Halls, but your Jake Wild Hall, your Anthony Exaguru, etc., who are doing a lot more, who went from a lot of spoken word stuff to more page stuff.
Yeah.
I think because they are more inclined to a career in poetry,
yeah,
they lean towards the page side of it. Not that you can't get a career in spoken word stuff, but I think the people that are more career-headed have a different appreciation to the page stuff, whereas I'm doing it as a hobby thing. Therefore, I like the hobby side of it, which is just the performing side, which unsurprisingly has less of a career path to it, kind of thing.
I'd probably resonate with that as well. Like, I think I said before, like, it's not something I love and something I will hope to do as much as possible. But yeah, again, it's not my full-time thing as well. So it's like, if I ever stopped. Yeah, if I ever had very, very limited time for it, I think I'd rather just go to an evening open mic or something and just kind of enjoy my evening there than to kind of sit and write.
Yeah, no, I think I have jokingly said now, if when I do the third book, that's a trilogy and I can stop writing. Like, I don't think I'd ever actually probably stop writing, but there's part of me that's like, I'm very comfortable saying third book, I'm finished, versus I'm not performing anymore. That would feel so weird to me. Whereas if I can say third book, I'm not going to publish anymore. That I could say and not hate that kind of thing.
There's no like Toy Story 4 coming for you then.
No, I mean, it'd have to be a Toy Story 4 thing where someone comes like, here, have some more money.
yeah. No, I hear it. Yeah.
But yeah, that is the questions there for that is the podcast. Thank you so much for coming down and joining me on the podcast tonight.
Thanks for having me. This is really cool. Really
you have a camera here. If you want to promote yourself, say anything, share anything, blah, 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 use it. Sure. Where can people find you online?
Where can people find me on? So my socials are FXM Poetry on all socials. I say all socials. I only really use Instagram these days. I don't really use the other ones, but I'm also there as well.
TikTok, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, exactly. I do have LinkedIn. You can find me there. And then, my debut pamphlet is called Mutabani and Other Poems. You can find it. Well, it's published by Little Betty of Bad Betty Press. So if you go on the Bad Betty Press website, you can order it there. Or I have a website as well, which is fxmpoetry.com. So you can see what it's about. Generally, the book is about Mutabani is the Luganda word for son, as in boy, son, and it generally addresses what it means to be a son in a Ugandan diasporic context. So, if you enjoy poems about that, then, cop the book, I guess. I still don't like the salesperson. It's still so weird to me.
Again, always the worst part of the thing. It has to be done, but it's done nevertheless. I have been Tyrone Lobus. I've been your host of this and all episodes of the Process Podcast, because that's an Ellie line. Jesus Christ. Now, I have been Tyrone. I've always been Tyrone. This has been the Process Podcast. We love you all, but now fuck off. Goodbye, everyone.